Hi, this is János, it's Reverb Audio, and today I'm going to have a look at the request. And Human was asking on the Buy Me a Coffee site, which I have this Buy Me a Coffee thing that's associated with my channel. So when you like my videos, you can buy me a coffee, an electronic coffee, and through that you can also ask questions, and I prioritize them over answering just plain questions. And I really appreciate the gift of the teas, which means financial support for my channel, and I like to reward it by giving my recommendation and answering his question. So basically he's looking into cornet phono stage, and he was not getting the pre-built cornet 4, but got the circuit board, and he's populating it with the parts of his choice, which is actually what I would do myself, and that's how you can get the most out of the cornet. And essentially I think what I've noticed with my cornet, that when I rebuilt it with my choice of capacitors, basically it became about as good in sound as the violin, which is also like a Jim's phono stage. It's like a higher level than the cornet. Unfortunately, he doesn't make those anymore because it was just so labor intensive to make that it was really painful for Jim to build the violins, and they are just way too complex to build DIY for yourself. Actually, I wouldn't even build a violin myself, just way too many parts. And however, you would say, oh, it's like too complex, why are there so many parts? That's because that's a really phenomenal phono stage. It has like low level step up in it as well, so it's like it can handle low output moving coil cartridges as well, and it also has a variable EQ, so you can choose different EQ curves and things like that. But the cornet is essentially like a baby violin without the EQ capability, and it's phenomenal. So I have both of them, and I love both of these. I think in my experience they are the most well, they were my choice of phono stages, and I recommend them wholeheartedly, and of course there are lots of excellent phono stages around the world, but I have found none which comes close, even close to the value of the cornets. And especially if you build it with your own choice of capacitors, is just really phenomenal. And so what Human has decided, Panasonic for electrolytic caps and Elna, so I think that's a good choice. I think he's meaning for the electrolytics, for that's a good choice. And for the Elnas, I would recommend the Silmic 2, not the RFA series. Kemet film caps, yes. And when you use the Kemet film caps, then I think he wanted to say Vima, as there's the bypass for the high voltage power supply. I really hate the sound of the Vimas. They are just so plasticky, and when you use Kemets, you actually can just omit the Vimas. They are not doing anything good there. Maybe you can put in obligatos, and now that you are building your own circuit board and the chassis for it, the obligatos occupy a lot more space than a Vima, but you can build a bigger box for it so it can fit, so it's not a problem. But The CAMETs don't really need, the CAMET D-ceilings don't really need a bypass for the high voltage section. And also, let's see, before we go, or maybe I can go into the tube range. I would not say, I would say I'm now lately in the past 10 years totally, completely, utterly out of touch of the choices of 12AU7s, AX7s on the market. So I don't know anything about the new production of these tubes. So I'm probably the worst person ever to get a recommendation. And what I do in my cornet and my violin is I just use like old stock tubes, like old US tubes. And of course, if someone lives in Europe and you have old European old stocks like Siemens and Telefunken or even Tungsram, I have a few Tungsram 12AU7s. I can recommend them. They are excellent tubes. And what I hear of people is that nowadays modern production tubes are much better nowadays than they were 20 years ago. And I can believe that, but I have not experienced that. I have not heard new production tubes. All of my friends who have tube gear, everyone has like older and oldest NOS tubes, so everyone like stocked up like decades ago, and they are using the old stock tubes. And the good thing is that when you have those NOS tubes, is they live forever. They last really long. And that was a big problem with new production tubes like 20 years ago, is they didn't last anything. Like you bought a set of let's say whatever tubes, and they barely last for a year. I hope this is better now, but I do not have any experience neither to confirm nor deny it. But I can probably still suspect that an NOS tube will live a lot longer even than a modern new production tube. However, what I'm generally hear of people is that for the modern production tubes, they sound a lot more clinical, and they, even if those that don't, the emphasis in present made tubes is on the bass and the high frequencies. So it's more emphasized there, and the mid-range is not as good. The developers are not paying attention to the mid-range in general. I cannot confirm that personally, but that's what I've been hearing. However, there might be other aspects. Maybe that's changed in the past couple of years. I don't know about it. As I said, I'm probably the worst person to ask, but that's my general impression, that if you want like really good mid-range and overall balanced tonality, balanced harmonics, balanced performance, then try to go for something NOS, and I mean under NOS, it need not be a new tube. You can get a pair of used 12AU7s, those they will sound fine as well. Anything like Tungsram, Siemens, G, RCA, whatever. And I could say like tubes like Bendix and whatnot, but then the prices just get so ridiculously expensive that there's no sense getting into those. So and also the problem with old tubes is that just so many fakes around that you never know whether you got a good deal of some NOS tube, or is it a fake, and then you get a really bad deal. And also the people who fake the tubes, they are more and more knowledgeable, and I just don't want to be in that rat race of how to outsmart these crooks. I have probably more than enough tubes to last me several lifetimes, so sadly I'm not looking into getting more and more of these tubes. So I would say just get some decent tubes, and and the best use of money is not to chase the best tubes, because there you can end up spending way too much. Maybe like look out for life. If you know someone, somehow you come across some really good deal from a reputable source, then get it. But otherwise I would not spend much money on that. I would save that money for the cartridge, because if you put the same amount of cartridge as you would put in the tubes, it will reward you a lot more. And of course, when you are at a stage where you have phenomenal cartridge, phenomenal turntable setup, and then you upgrade the tubes, of course it will be even better. But in the beginning, I would say, if you spend that money on the cartridge, it will reward you way better than focusing on the tubes. And also, like, focusing on the capacitors and parts, that's the best. So now let's have a little look at it. So what are we talking about? So this is the Cornet, and that's, I think that this is the price for a built unit. So the circuit board itself is something much cheaper, but this is what it looks like. It's a really nice board, and I have to say, because from a picture no one can tell much about a circuit board, is that Jim's circuit boards are the highest quality circuit boards I've seen in audio. So here in Hawaii, the climate is really bad. Most of like Conrad Johnson circuit boards, which are like 10, 12, 15 years old, they just fall apart. The traces lift, and it's just, they're done, toast, dead. So if you have like a CJ, like a PV5 preamp, by now they are all dead. And even like 10 years ago, they've been all like traces fixed and everything, but by now they are so bad that, and so many traces lifted, that it's just unusable. And Jim's Cornets from the same era that the PV5 was made, like my Cornet is 20-year plus old. It is the first generation Cornet, and the circuit board is still pristine. It's phenomenal, and it's like really thick, really fantastic, and it's just fabulous. I really hate I viscerally hate circuit boards. I'm just a pure point-to-point person, and I don't tolerate in audio any circuit boards at all. The only circuit boards I ever tolerated are Jim's circuit boards, and so far whatever I built, like amplifier or preamplifier or loudspeaker, I built one that I preferred vastly over what I could get commercially or what was available commercially. However, with phono stage, Jim's Cornet and violin kind of whooped the buttocks of the phono stage that I built for myself. So there you go. I'm not the best of everything, and I'm not afraid to admit when I am bettered by my friends. Thank you, Jim. And this is one case. This is a phenomenal preamp, not preamp, phono stage. And as you see, 3 tubes, 2 12AX7s and one 12AU7 as a cathode follower, so it just can drive any interconnect. It's really fantastic. And at Jim's website, you see it says the download user manual, and he puts his schematics in the user manual. So everything he builds, he also publishes the schematics for it. So when you click on the user manual, there you see there is the schematics there. But now if we want to go through that, we cannot really do that because it's like skewed around. So let me just move over to Acrobat, and okay, so here I have rotated it so we can see it better, and there you go. I hope you can see the hand there. So that's where the high voltage source is. And on the schematics, so there's a resistor, voltage dropping resistor. So one more thing that you didn't mention is the resistors. So now that you are populating the board, I would really recommend to get coax pair, which is also branded as Kivame, carbon composite resistors. They are really, if you want like a natural tone, so if you are interested in like the tonality to getting out the harmonic components from the music, then these coax pair carbon composites are really fantastic way and reasonably priced as well. There are some audio resistors, like some like audio note tantalum and whatnot, which are just like exorbitantly priced, and it one could also build his amplifier with that or phono stage, but I also find reason and reasonability, to be part of how we build some things and the parts cost and choices, and the coax pair is a good idea. Some people might say, why are you saying coax pair? It's Kivame. No, it's coax pair. Coax pair is the manufacturer, Kivame is the rebrand, so they put the name Kivame on it, but the company who makes it, it's called coax pair. And it's like for example, like there's the Miflex capacitors, which is a Polish company, and there's Duelund, and Duelund is making the caps by Miflex. So Miflex makes the Duelund capacitors, but they put on the jacket the letters Duelund, but it's made by Miflex. So kind of like that. And there you can get the Miflex capacitors at a fraction of the price compared to the Duelund capacitors, and actually they are not exactly equal, because Duelund asked them to make like slight modifications compared to how Miflex makes them, but the differences are so minor compared between their equivalent models that a lot of audiophiles cannot even hear much bigger things than that compared to those tiny differences, and if you just put one or the other, most people wouldn't even notice that I'm listening to something else. However, your wallet notices it, that you are spending like 16 times more for the Duelund compared to the Miflex, and I think it's atrocious. So like Duelund has great ideas, good sounding capacitors, very good ones, but the amount of financial rip-off they make is just exorbitant. I cannot believe it that they are ripping people off that badly. It's like the only time I bought Duelund caps, sadly, now my confessions and admissions, I bought Duelund cast capacitors. Yes. When they were 75% off, so at 1/4 the price, that's when I bought them. But even at 1/4 the price, they were 4 times more expensive than Miflex. So imagine that. So there's some cost margin that Miflex asked those guys to have their caps made, and they add 15 times more for their profit margins. That's beyond insane. I can't even believe it. So anyway, so I think since then Duelund, that was in the case for the Duelund cast capacitors and the Miflex KPCU equivalent caps. That when I bought those like 5 years ago or something like that, 8 years ago. Since then I haven't checked the latest Duelund prices. They might have dropped them off a little bit. I think now they are not as egregious as they were like 8 years ago compared to Miflex, but it's still just insane that they don't have like an honest 20% profit margin like an honest company would, but they have like a 500 or 1,000% or even more. It's just they are completely living the dream there. Anyway, so let's get back here. So here this is the high voltage supply, and you see there that there's the 47 microfarad capacitor. That would be the CAMAT, and that 470 nanofarad, that would be the VIMA cap. And for the CAMAT DC link, you can omit that VIMA there, or if you want to improve, I would say put there a dual wound, like a 470 nanofarad dual wound, but put an obligato there, like 0.2 microfarad obligato. I would not put a 0.47, it's just way too big. They won't be able to put in that big. And actually, why is it 470? Because it's 1% of the 47 microfarads. So usually when we are bypassing electrolytics, then 1% for the bypass cap, that's the optimal value to bypass a capacitor. And however, for these film capacitors, they are essentially like that. CAMAT DC link is better than a VIMA for VIMA bypass cap. So I think with the VIMA we would just bring down the quality, and some people will say that, oh, some series, higher series of the VIMA have more detail level than a CAMAT DC link, and yes, they are right, but that VIMA also adds that plastic taste to the sound that's not present in the CAMAT when the CAMAT is broken in. So the CAMAT sounds like a VIMA when you are breaking it in, the first 20, 30, 50 or 100 hours, depending on the voltages involved for the break-in. They sound pretty horrible and have that really plastic aftertaste, like, dang, I put on a big VIMA there. But after that, it clears up very, very nicely. The VIMAs do the same thing as well. They lose that plastic taste over breaking, but they still retain part of it. That artificial taste is not gone with the VIMAs. That's why I don't like them, and that's why I would recommend just put an obligato there. And because the CAMAT films don't really need a bypass, that's why you don't have to worry that you have to put in the 1% value exactly there. Just put in something tiny just to lift up the highs, just to give that little extra touch in there, but it's not necessary at this point. And also you might not have the space either, because that CAMAT there, that will be a giant capacitor, way bigger than the electrolytic that was there. And also for the CAMAT, you don't have to worry to make it exactly 47 microfarad. If it's just 40 or 50 or 60, doesn't matter, it will be fine. Just keep all of them the same value. And then let's see, this here is the same situation. So this is the first pi filter, and then this is the second. So here the same goes for these two. So you can also omit this VIMA there, and this is the CAMAT. And then what else? I think I have to change my face over here to make space for the explanations here on this side, because this is here the input side. So we don't see the end, but this is the input. So that's where the signal comes in. And there are these two resistors there. So this is the input resistor, the 47K. So that defines the input impedance of the phono stage. And eventually you can play around with this to optimize it to your cartridge. And what you can do really is once you have the phono stage done, and you found your favorite cartridge, and everything is well broken in, everything well set up, you've been listening to it for hundreds of hours, and if you think that it's too bright, then lower the value of the input resistor there. So that's the load for your cartridge. So that's 47K load. If it sounds too bright, then make it like 42K, something like that, and then listen to it again. Now it shouldn't be as bright, and the bass should be more expansive but looser as well. So generally when you lower the value of the Rhodes resistor, then it becomes a fatter, more expansive sound. But if you lower it too much, then the bass loses control and definition. And when you make that value higher, so like you go like 51K or 60K or 75K, then the sound becomes like tighter bass but less in the amount, and also more thin and more crisp sound. So if you have your favorite cartridge, everything, and it sounds great, but it sounds too loose and it's not tight enough, and you need a tiny bit of air to it, then just change that 47K to a 51K or 57K, 56K, something like that, and probably that will give you what you need. And if it's like too crisp, then lower it. And try out the optimal value, because I just given some numbers to try as first tries, but you'll probably have to try multiple ones to get the best value. And I would say in the beginning, just get like a set of cheap resistors, try it with them, and once you found the best, then get a high quality resistor of that value and put that in, and then you got your answer. But this can be a good or a bad advice, because sometimes if you have like a different brand, especially a different type, like you are changing like a metal film for a carbon composition, then the thinness or the brightness might be totally different. So like even if you put like a lower value metal film, even that will sound brighter probably than a higher value carbon composition film. So that's another thing that to look out for. And now this resistor. So anyway, if you choose to build like most of the phono stage with just generic resistors, I would really recommend to have at least this resistor be of very high quality. So like put here like a coax-pair carbon composite resistor there, or maybe you can try like something more esoteric, like some tantalums or whatnot, or different kinds, and see what mixes and matches best with your phono stage, with your musicality, etc. And if you want to try out like some exotic audio resistor, then this is the position where you want to experiment to see how it sounds, because this is where it will be the best bang for the buck. That this will be the best place where it will show you returns. Anywhere else it will have much less influence. And for example, here this one, that's the cathode resistor for the first for the input tube for the first 12AX7. This will also have a big impact. This is the load for the first tube, but this will also have a big impact. So you can also get like high quality resistors here, and the same goes high quality resistor for same thing, cathode and load for the second tube. And here we have the third tube. We have a little resistor that doesn't matter that much, but this one matters more in the bass. However, what really matters as well is the resistors in the path of the RIA circuit, the equalization circuit. So that 6.8K resistor here, this has a big impact. This 470K has a giant impact, and that 3.3K also has an impact on the sound. That 470 ohm, that has an impact as well, but not nearly as big as that 470K. Also, talking about the capacitors, this 47 nanofarad cap is part of the RIA EQ, and this 47, both 47s, these the quality of these plays a huge gigantic impact on the sound. And by changing these, you can just drastically elevate the cornet to trumpet level just by these changes, basically. And that's an additional one, the output capacitor, that these guys matter tremendously. And that 1 nanofarad, that's also part of the rear EQ. That's also important to have a nice quality cap there. So for this one, I would say like maybe just put a MiFlex there, MiFlex key PCU, and that will be expensive, but it's well worth it. Well, expensive, maybe like $20-30. Yeah, it's kind of expensive, but overall well worth the price. And that's also like changing your cornet to a trumpet. And here these guys 47NF, if you can get like a MiFlex, maybe if you can fit it in, then yes, get these MiFlex as well, and then you will have like super just like as refined sound as you can get from a phono stage, pretty much. And maybe we could claim maybe you could get like 1% or 0.1% better, but then it's just like kind of like it doesn't matter. So in my experience, the cornet with like when you have like a MiFlex, Obligato, Kemet, Elna, variety how you build it, and with some coax pair resistors, then it just produces such deep music with such deep emotionality, such amazing harmonic content, tone, flow of music, dynamics, impact, everything. It's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful music that it will make you think about the music, and then you will stop thinking about audio equipment at all. So once I have my cornet for my upstairs system, and I have the violin downstairs, I don't even think about tweaking them or changing anything them. And you guys know I love tweaking and modifying things, and I would love to, but honestly I don't feel the need at all. And then if I have the time, I rather just listen to music on them. So basically that's my recommendation about the cornet build. So if you have a circuit board, then that's what I recommend doing with it, how to populate with what kind of parts. So thank you, Human, for your generous donation of teas through Buy Me a Coffee, Buy Me a Tea, and have fun with the cornet. Thank you. Bye bye.